You know how we're always hearing about the downsides of conventional farming, the chemical runoff, depleted soils, all that? It's a lot. But what if I told you there's a solution, like right under our feet?
There is, and it's a team of, you could say, microscopic superheroes, biofertilizers.
Okay, superheroes might be a bit much, don't you think?
Not at all. We're talking about microbes that can, like, pull nitrogen out of thin air, unlock phosphorus, and even help plants stay cool under pressure. It's like they're the ultimate plant support team.
All right, you've got my attention. We're going deep on biofertilizers this time, right? Figuring out why everyone's so hyped about them.
Exactly. And we've got this research article. It's called Development of Biofertilizers for Sustainable Agriculture Over 4 Decades, 1980-2022. And it looks at a ton of research, like over 12,000 studies on this. It shows how much this whole field has blown up, especially since 2016.
Wow, okay, so that's a serious amount of research. It's not just a fad then. What's got scientists so fascinated?
So the article talks about how biofertilizers could be our way out of this, like, chemical fertilizer trap we're in.
Hmm.
They can still give plants those key nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all that good stuff, but in a way that actually, like, works with nature, not against it.
So instead of dumping synthetic stuff that messes up the environment, these biofertilizers are like, what, little personal chefs for my tomatoes?
More like nutrient coaches, actually. Because, see, those essential nutrients, they're often kind of locked up in the soil. Chemical fertilizers just dump in more, which isn't very efficient and can cause all those problems we talked about. Biofertilizers, though, they help plants use what's already there by converting nutrients into a form that plants can easily absorb.
Okay, so they're not just delivering the goods, they're teaching my plants to become more self-sufficient. I'm into it. Tell me more about how these microbial mentors do their thing. Hit me with your best science.
Let's start with nitrogen, right? Totally essential for plants to grow, but it's mostly just hanging out in the air. Useless.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you've got nitrogen-fixing bacteria on the plant.
Wait, so bacteria can just like grab nitrogen from the air? That sounds like, I don't know, magic or something.
It's real, and it's probably happening in your garden right now. There are these bacteria like rhizobium, and they form these partnerships with plants, especially legumes. They basically move right into the roots and start converting that atmospheric nitrogen into something usable, like a tiny nitrogen factory.
So it's like a little symbiotic microbrewery just churning out nitrogen cocktails for my plants. This is way cooler than I expected.
And it doesn't stop at nitrogen. Remember those phosphorus and potassium treasure chests we mentioned earlier? Some biofertilizers, like certain Bacillus and Pseudomonas species, they're pros at unlocking those.
So they're like tiny miners digging up the good stuff for my plants. That's teamwork. But the article mentioned they do even more than just nutrients, right?
They do. They got this whole other skill set. They can actually regulate how the plant grows, too. Kind of like personal trainers for your plants.
Hold on, plant trainers. Are we talking tiny weights and treadmills here?
Not quite, but they do help the plant produce more growth hormones, leading to, bigger, healthier plants.
Now that's what I call a growth hack.
Yeah.
Which hormones are we even talking about here? Asking for my tomatoes.
One of the stars is indole-3 acetic acid, or IAA. It's like the growth hormone for plants, helps with cell division and all that. And some biofertilizers, they're really good at making it.
Mm.
They can affect other hormones too, like cytokinins, gibberellins. It's like a whole orchestra of hormones, all conducted by these little microbes.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like a whole hidden world working together to make my plants thrive. This is way cooler than I thought. But you know me, I gotta ask, are there any downsides? There's always a catch, right?
Well, there are always challenges. For one, these microbes, they can be a little picky. They need the right environment to do their thing, right soil, the right climate, all that. But researchers, they're working on ways to make biofertilizers more effective, more adaptable. It's a work in progress.
So it's all about balance, making sure the microbes are happy so they can make our plants happy. Makes sense to me.
And here's another layer to this whole biofertilizer thing. They don't just help plants directly. They also improve the, let's say, the stage where all this growth is happening, the soil itself, like master cultivators, making the soil a better place for everyone.
Okay, now you're really talking my language. Tell me more about the soil boosting magic.
Yeah.
How do they actually make the soil better?
Get ready, because this is where it gets really interesting. So imagine like a forest floor, right? You've got all those leaves breaking down, making that rich soil. Biofertilizers, They can actually speed that whole process up. They help decompose that organic matter, which releases even more nutrients for the plants to use.
So they're like, what, composting wizards? Turning my kitchen scraps into plant food? That's pretty cool. But didn't the article say something about these microbes making the soil, like, better structured too?
Yeah. It's like this. You know how some soil's all clumpy and hard to work with, and then other soil's nice and crumbly? Well, biofertilizers can actually help make the soil more like that, more plant-friendly.
So they're like tiny landscape architects sculpting the perfect underground environment. This just keeps getting more interesting.
I know, right? They help bind the soil particles together, which creates better aeration, so water can get in easier. It's like they're whipping up the perfect soil smoothie for your plants.
A soil smoothie. I love it. It's amazing to think about this whole world going on underground. Speaking of which, can we talk about those, like, bacterial all-stars you mentioned before? Let's meet the team.
Of course. We've got Pseudomonas, Bacillus, Azospirillum, and we already talked about Rhizobium. They're like the dream team of the soil microbiome.
Okay, I'm picturing them in little microbial jerseys. We met Rhizobium already, the nitrogen fixers, but what about the others? What are their specialties?
Well, Pseudomonas, they're like the multi-talented ones. They can do it all: fix nitrogen, unlock phosphorus, make growth hormones, even fight off diseases. It's like having a little Swiss Army knife in your soil.
Wow, overachievers for sure. Wait, what about Bacillus? What's their claim to fame?
Bacillus, those are the tough guys. They can handle anything you throw at them. Salty soils, drought, even some of those nasty soil diseases. They're like the protectors of the microbial community.
So they're the ones you want in your team, no matter what.
For sure. They also release stuff that actually fights off the harmful microbes. It's like
Yeah.
they're the bouncers at the plant root club, keeping things running smoothly.
Okay, I love that analogy. And how about Azospirillum? What's their thing?
Azospirillum, they're the nitrogen providers for cereal crops, so like wheat, rice, and corn. They're super important for making sure those staple crops get enough nitrogen, even if they might not be as efficient as rhizobium is with legumes.
So no matter what you're growing, there's a biofertilizer out there ready to team up. That's good news. It's like having this whole team of microscopic helpers working underground.
Totally. And here's where it gets even wilder. We talked about all that research on biofertilizers, right? Well, turns out we're still learning so much about how these microbes all interact with each other.
Ooh, like what? Give me the microbial gossip. What are researchers finding?
Well, this one example really jumped out at me. It's about Bacillus valezensis. So it seems they have a kind of, well, unconventional way of making themselves more effective.
Unconventional. Now you have to tell me more. I'm intrigued.
So get this. Bacillus valezensis, they actually engage in a form of, you could call it, cannibalism.
Whoa, hold up. Cannibalism. Are we talking like a horror movie in the soil? That took a dark turn.
It's not as scary as it sounds. It's more like strategic population control,
Right.
you know? So some of these Bacillus valezensis cells will actually sacrifice themselves. They release compounds that attract other beneficial microbes like Pseudomonas stuteri, but at the same time, they're also getting rid of some of the less helpful microbes.
So it's less about a gruesome feast and more about like making sure only the best microbes are invited to the plant party.
Exactly. They're basically clearing the dance floor for the most beneficial microbes, making sure everyone gets along, and the party favors the nutrients are spread around.
Wow. These microbes are more sophisticated than I am. And all this microbial matchmaking it ultimately leads to.
A stronger, healthier biofilm on the plant roots. Remember, that's where all the good stuff is happening. It's like they're building a whole microbial metropolis right there at the plant's doorstep.
This is too cool. Who knew the soil was so dramatic? We've got nitrogen factories, soil smoothies, now microbial matchmaking. It's like a whole reality TV show happening underground.
Right. And it just goes to show how much more there is to learn about what's happening down there. But I think we've given our listeners a pretty good overview of biofertilizers, you know, what they are and why they have so much potential for the future of farming.
Definitely. And it's not just some like niche thing either. It's clear that biofertilizers could really change the way we think about growing food in a way that's actually good for the environment.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about it. It's about working with nature instead of trying to control it with all these chemicals.
It's like hitting the reset button in agriculture, going back to basics.
Exactly. And that shift, that's what's so powerful about biofertilizers. It's not just a gardening technique. It's a whole new way of thinking about how we grow our food.
That's a big deal. And you know
Right.
what? After hearing about all this amazing stuff these microbes can do, I'm starting to believe it.
That's what I like to hear. And that's what I hope our listener takes away from this, a sense of like wonder and possibility. There's this whole universe beneath our feet, full of life, and maybe even some solutions to the big problems we face.
It's like we've had a glimpse into the future of farming, and it's teeming with these microscopic superheroes. We've covered so much ground today.
Hmm.
Nitrogen factories, soil smoothies, microbial dating apps. Where do we even go from here?
Well,
So where do we even go from here? I mean, we've got these microbial marvels working underground, making plants grow better, boosting soil health, all that. Sounds almost too good to be true. Is there a catch? Should I be, like, running out to start my own biofertilizer farm right now?
let's not get ahead of ourselves. Biofertilizers definitely have huge potential, but it's not quite as easy as, just sprinkling some microbes around and watching the garden explode. Remember, these are living things. They need the right environment to do their thing.
So no instant garden paradise. Darn. What are the challenges in getting these biofertilizers to work on, a larger scale?
One big thing is making sure those microbes actually stick around.
Mm.
You know, it's not enough to just apply them once and hope for the best. The soil needs to be a good place for them to live, the right pH, enough moisture, all of that.
So it's all about creating the right environment, like we would for any other living thing we want to, like flourish.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of the research is focusing on right now.
Like,
Figuring out how to apply biofertilizers better and developing new formulas that are more effective and adaptable. It's a constant process of improvement, making sure those microbes are happy and productive.
okay, so it's not as simple as it seems. But realistically, can biofertilizers really make a difference? Compared to, like, the scale of industrial agriculture.
Yeah.
Can they really help make things more sustainable?
I think they absolutely can. Think about it. Biofertilizers could drastically reduce our reliance on synthetic fertilizers, which
Mm.
are, let's face it, really harmful to the environment. Biofertilizers can help us grow healthier plants, improve soil health, increase biodiversity. I mean, it's a win all around.
It's like we're rethinking the whole system, right? Instead of trying to control everything with chemicals, we're working with nature again.
That's the idea. And that shift in thinking, that's what's so exciting about biofertilizers. We're not just talking about a new product here. We're talking about a completely new way of looking at how we produce food.
Wow, okay. A whole new way of thinking about food production. That's pretty huge. But, after learning about all these incredible things these microbes can do, I think I'm starting to see it too.
That's what I like to hear. There's so much potential here, so much we're still learning.
Yeah. It's amazing. We've gone from nitrogen factories to soil smoothies to microbial matchmakers all in one episode. It's been a wild ride.
It really has. And to think it's just the beginning. There's still so much more to discover about biofertilizers. It's an exciting time to be, interested in soil.
It really is. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of biofertilizers. If you want to learn even more, be sure to check out the full research article, Development of Biofertilizers for Sustainable Agriculture Over 4 Decades, 1980-2022. But for now, we'll leave you with this thought. The next time you're out in a garden, or even just walking through a park, take a second to think about all that incredible, invisible life happening beneath your feet. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Happy exploring.